Welcome everybody, my name is 𝐏𝐨𝐬𝐬 and this is the Market Meditations podcast. We chat with fascinating people from around the world to extract mindsets, routines, stories and habits to help you build richer lives. Meditators, today we have on the crypto Lark. He owns one of the largest YouTube channels in the cryptocurrency space. His prior experience in teaching allows him to effectively communicate both financial and cryptocurrency specific concepts in his videos. We're going to explore his journey and ideas on the cryptocurrency market for 2021. Before we jump into this episode, don't forget that I send hand-picked market news, insights, and education to over 6,000 traders and investors 3 times a week. To get access to this, all you have to do is sign up to 𝐼𝐻𝐸𝐽𝐻.substack.com. Meditators, welcome to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. Today we have with us the Crypto Lark, a YouTube famous crypto celebrity who is joining us today for a conversation diving into the New Zealand side of crypto, creating content on YouTube, and also we're going to dive into Polkadot and Ethereum at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. Lark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be on.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on. It's actually our first guest from New Zealand and actually one of the few people I know representing crypto from New Zealand. What's it like to not have any sort of local community, or is there one just not as public on social media?
I mean, there is a local community and it's not as, big on social media without a doubt. There are, from time to time, small meetups here. Obviously, COVID has kind of affected how often meetups happen. We are pretty lucky here in New Zealand that we've kind of largely avoided most of the worst effects of COVID. In fact, life's basically back to normal in New Zealand, thanks to shutting our borders, early and going hard early. But the local crypto scene, I mean, yeah, there's definitely people doing stuff here in New Zealand. It's not that it's not, we're only 5 million people though. So when you think about the global scene, right, there's a lot more people out there than there are here in New Zealand. So that kind of affects it. But, obviously my crypto channel is the biggest sort of, content creator channel from New Zealand, but we've got a lot of developers here in New Zealand. We have some projects that are based out of New Zealand as well, and some developers that are based out of New Zealand. I mean, I think it's Centrality and 𝐉𝐸𝐺. They're both based here in Auckland. Actually, I'm based in Wellington, but they're based here in New Zealand. So, there's a bit of a crypto scene. There are some developers. There's some stuff going on. So it's not that we're totally out of loop here in New Zealand, but it's definitely not as big of a scene as you might get in some places like New York or something like that, right?
Yeah, or London. London's pretty packed, and one of the coolest things is this year I've gotten more and more involved in the space is actually meeting up with people in person. We had a brief period with no lockdown over here where we got to meet up with some people, do business in person, and it's like a whole different world. It's so much nicer to see someone face to face rather than over a Skype call. And given that, how did you actually get into crypto in the first place? As I imagine, while there is a community, it's probably a lot harder to find over there.
I mean, yeah, I started getting in obviously online. It wasn't through in-person conversations or anything like that. Although, funnily enough, the first time I did contemplate buying Bitcoin was, I think back as in 2012. And we were talking about it in my political teaching assistant's office. And I was like, oh man, that sounds really cool. I should buy some of that. But then beer money for this weekend, I don't know. And that's kind of where the conversation ended for me at the time. And I didn't kind of pick it up till a few years later. Obviously, hindsight, right? 2020.
Expensive beer.
Expensive beer. Probably wasn't that good anyway. Cheap uni pub beer. But anyway, yeah, I mean, really, I just kind of started getting into crypto because I was very interested in technology. And of course, the potential for the asset class to mature in a massive way. And yeah, I kind of really got to get started in content creation around, actually funnily enough, started on Steam. Back in the day, I haven't used Steam in years. But I actually started posting content over there because I was already investing in Bitcoin. I was thinking, how can I earn some crypto? Instead of just throwing money in all the time. I thought, well, Steam, that's pretty interesting. I can actually just post blogs and stuff, and you get paid in Steam and all that stuff. I thought that's pretty cool. And I start posting some blogs over there. That's fun and creative, and kind of one thing led to another, and I started getting a lot of questions. I started talking about Bitcoin. I wasn't talking just about Bitcoin when I started my Steam blog. I was talking about travel reviews and reviews of New Zealand vineyards and stuff like this, all kinds of different things that I'm interested in. And I started posting about Bitcoin. Those were the posts that started getting the most engagement. A lot of people started asking a lot of questions, about stuff. And I started trying to answer those questions as part of my own journey of discovering and learning about cryptocurrency. And one thing led to another. I was like, man, I spent a lot of time writing these articles. So I just started, recording YouTube videos and then posting those over to Steemit. And then people started asking questions and looking at stuff on YouTube. One thing led to another. And, here we are.
Did you find your background as a teacher was what made it potentially easier for you to explain these topics, because it was just one thing you were interested in? I'd imagine you don't have a strong, correct me if I'm wrong, programming background to aid you talk about it from the technological side, much like myself, who also does not have that sort of background. So it really helps to convey these ideas through a teacher's perspective.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, it certainly made me more comfortable, in front of the camera and to be able to try and explain concepts in a simple way. Obviously, I was, part of teaching. So, yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, I don't have a coding background either. I just come at it from the perspective of, actually more than anything, I look at the big implications, the macro stuff, the politics behind it. Obviously also looking at, technical analysis and stuff from time to time as well. But kind of trying to take that big picture of what's actually happening, with the more macro perspective, which is kind of what my education was in political science and stuff like that. So bringing that then to talk about cryptocurrency, bring that perspective in, but also as having worked as an educator for years, it's, I think a pretty easy transition towards talking about and educating about cryptocurrencies online. So that's definitely was as a help having that background. But yeah, it's fun. I learned a lot more as I've gone, obviously, and perfected the craft over years.
Oh, of course, there's always more to learn, especially with the rate at which this industry develops, the innovations that are constantly happening. It's insane. But before we dive into that, and we certainly will, before you got into crypto, was your background in political science helpful in previous trading or investing ventures, if there were any, before crypto?
No, I mean, crypto was really my first kind of, big area of investing. It's interesting because I was actually really interested in, the concepts of like investing and stuff in sort of like 18, 19, 20. I was reading books, on Buffett and all this stuff. And I don't know, life just kind of caught up and I didn't really take it seriously enough. I let some people kind of tell me, oh, that's, people dictate my life for me, whatever. And, as a young guy, what are you going to do? And I started just going off doing different stuff. And I was moved overseas and started traveling around. And it's kind of the whole concept of investing just kind of got left behind. Right. So while I had been very interested in gold and had been very interested in stocks and hadn't really got any, but I was really learning a lot about it. And then I moved overseas and started, working on like cruise ships and stuff, which basically just sucks your entire life away. There's no time to think about anything besides working and sleeping. And then I was traveling a lot. And so kind of just missed out for years and years and years. And so, no, I didn't really do any investing before cryptocurrency. So, Bitcoin was one of my first investments ever made. So.
Amazing. For so many people, Bitcoin is, we had Nathaniel Whitmore on earlier today, and he described it as a lens through which the world just opens up, not just through the financial side, because you get exposed to the financial systems. You can't understand Bitcoin without understanding this. And that in turn takes you to investing, to wealth generations, because most people come into Bitcoin because numbers go up, not because this is the financial revolution and it's going to change everything. But then what happens is you go into the revolution, you start looking at the macro effects of Bitcoin. And was that what drew you to it first, given your background, or was it number go up as well?
I mean, it was a bit of both. It's kind of, you get the warm fuzzies. You're like, oh, this is pretty interesting, right? But I'm also going to, totally change my financial destiny as well. So that's the primary driver. I think if we're honest, that's the primary driver for 99.99% of people in cryptocurrency, right? That's investing. I think some people do get kind of hung up on idealism when it comes to, holding bags and stuff like this. Oh, but this crypto is trying to do something good or whatever. And I know the price is down by 90%, but it's going to come back one of these days because people are going to start caring about this whatever thing. And it's just not the case, right? Idealism and even the technology for a lot of this stuff doesn't tend to matter, right? What it really comes down to is, are people going to use it? Are we going to get network effects, all these different things happening that are actually going to give this thing value? So no, I definitely came at it from the perspective as an investor, but obviously I got very interested in the potential of the technology to kind of do interesting things and to, I think, really challenge the status quo that we have been seeing. Because obviously having a political background, I'm very keenly aware of the effects of things like the 2008 global financial crisis and the central bank money printing and all this stuff. That was all on my radar before Bitcoin, right? And then to see Bitcoin as being a solution, or, maybe not a be-all end-all solution for some of these things, but certainly a step towards addressing some of these issues. It's pretty interesting stuff, right? So not only could I get this investment, but also it's an investment that you can really believe in, right? Versus, buying bonds or something like that.
100%. And what were the biggest mistakes you made initially when you first got in, not having had much investing experience, but still having a good understanding of the macro features behind it? The two are very separated, if you will. The investing side is kind of cold and there's a few too many variables to get involved, but then the other narrative side can be a lot more variable, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest mistakes that I made as an investor in my early days were not taking profits and holding things too long that didn't need to be held for too long, right? We have to admit that this market is pretty heavily based on speculation, especially once you start getting out of, the top two cryptocurrencies, let's say. I mean, a lot of the stuff, we're talking pretty heavy speculation, especially the smaller cap altcoins. I mean, some of this stuff, it might 10x, in a couple of weeks, but then it's minus 99% in 6 months, so not taking profits is one of the biggest mistakes. I watched the portfolio go up and like, oh my gosh, I'm rich. And then within 6 months, like, well, that was fun. Why didn't I click the sell button, right? So that was probably my biggest mistake, I think, in my early days of investing, was not taking profits, not actually, paying myself, which is something I very, very consistently do now. Always taking profits, always banking profits on altcoins and stuff like that. And I treat Bitcoin a little bit differently. I look at Bitcoin as, a long-term wealth asset. And so I'm happy to just keep accumulating that as I do. But for basically everything else, it's gotta take profits on it. You don't want to be caught holding those bags. And that's exactly what happened to me, in 2017. I did watch a lot of money, my portfolio be worth a lot, be rich on paper, right? But not actually click the sell button and become, rich in real life at that time, right? So it's that was the biggest lesson. That's one thing I talk about on the channel now all the time, is you have to make sure you're paying yourself. You have to make sure you're taking profits. Yes, the markets, we hope they'll go up and up and up and up and up forever, but markets are markets, right? So make sure to pay yourself, have a plan, have a strategy towards taking profits. And that was my biggest mistake.
So what are the good plans and strategies that you've discovered for taking profit? Are they active? Are they passive? How do you apply them? Is it dependent on the individual?
Yeah, it's dependent on the different cryptocurrencies. I mean, there are some that I'm happy to hold for a longer time. I mean, some of the DeFi protocols, for example, actually have some pretty interesting cash flow in terms of the revenue models they have coming through, like 𝐏𝐸 Network, for example. I've been holding that token for a long, long time now. And it's great. It pays out in Ethereum every, 2 weeks. I think I get a payout, and it's paid out in ETH, and it's, sitting there building up my ETH stack. And it's nice. It's a nice one to hold. And I might consider holding that for a longer term. I'm very interested in cryptocurrencies that have dividend models that where you actually get paid for holding a token. I think Uniswap could be really interesting. I don't actually have a position in Uniswap. I wish I'd bought a position about a few weeks ago when it's still at $3, but obviously that moment's passed. But those are the ones that I look for right now, are ones that actually have strong revenue cash models coming through, right? Bitcoin, I look at, again, as a long-term wealth thing. Ethereum, I will cash out some, probably not all of my Ethereum, once I see Bitcoin kind of crashing over sort of like my plan is, once Bitcoin gets over $100,000, I'll start selling a little bit of my Ethereum, and then just kind of ladder out. With a lot of my altcoins, the approaches that I'm taking is this kind of ladder out idea, right? So once we see those big pumps, what I try to do is get my initial capital back out. So if we see a 3, 4, 5x pump on an altcoin, which is not that crazy, happens all the time, I get my capital back out, right? And so then it's basically a worry-free moonbag at that point. I've done this very successfully with lots of cryptocurrencies in 2020, where I'll get in, you get your moonbag, You get your capital back out, and if it keeps pumping, which I saw, for example, I'll give you with the example with 𝐉𝐨𝐬𝐧, for example, 𝐿ROND. So I got a good entry on it. It pumped like crazy. I took my capital back out. It kept pumping. I took, a whole bunch more out. It kept pumping. I took more out. And I've still got about a third or 40% of my initial position. And that's just riding. That's a moonbag riding. We'll see how it goes during this bull run. But even if it goes to zero, I don't even care, because I've paid myself. I got my capital back out, right? And I've taken profits on it. I made good gains on it. And now it's chilling. We'll just see what happens with it, right? And I can keep watching that. And when we do, I would actually have a sell order in right now for a little bit of it as well. So if we see it pump up a bit more, then I'll get some more profits back out and just keep repeating that process and make sure to pay myself along the way, right? But always keeping that little moon bag in case of the exponential thing. When we saw in 2017, I think 𝐷igiByte did I can't remember what it was, did 30,000% in 3 weeks or something like this. So, you just got to keep a little bit of the moon bags around for the good stuff, right? For the stronger looking cryptocurrencies in case that happens.
It sounds like the trading style is very discretionary. You have had 4 years of experience now in the market since 2017, and you've got a good feel of how it works and taking into effect the macro picture. And forgive me for leveraging you as an example while you're here. You try to dissect when the best time is to take profit and not to take profit. So that's done discretionarily. You like to ladder it, so you spread those orders out. The one place I'd like to dive in a little deeper is the moonbag, because there are a lot of people who are a fan of keeping a moonbag. For our listeners that don't know what a moonbag is, it's simply holding on to a certain amount of whatever asset you have and hoping the price continues to go up parabolically. Have you run tests to see if this actually is over the long term profitable? Personally, outside of 2017, I came in very, very aggressive, no serious risk management, a few moonbags, and it did pay off. It paid off really well. But looking back and taking a wider sample size without a certain degree of luck, I found it's almost always better to just take that absolute profit and not look for the punts, if you will. Now, punt is an aggressive word, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies I won't keep moonbags for. There's very few that I will. And, 𝐉𝐸gold's one, right? I actually really like that. I think it's a very strong cryptocurrency and will do well. Most of the cryptocurrencies that come in and out of my portfolio, no way. I'm not keeping I'm not speculating on those. I've got maybe, I don't know, a dozen cryptocurrencies in my portfolio that I'm looking at, it's kind of longer term, mid to long term, things I'll actually keep moonbags for, versus most of the cryptocurrencies, they come in, I make money, I get out. That's it, right? So yeah, it is an interesting question whether or not the moonbag strategy is actually going to be profitable in the long run, right? This is the thing is with 𝐉𝐸gold, for example, I could have probably been more profitable swing trading it, right? Got out at the previous peak, bought back in recently, rode it back up. So, there is that definitely an opportunity cost no matter which way you're going to go, right? With the market. But personally, again, I'd like to keep ones that I do think are going to be strong long term. I'm staking my 𝐉𝐸gold tokens right now. It's getting, I can't remember, it's 29% or something. Staking rewards. So that sits there, it piles up, and hopefully we do get some really strong altcoin action. Then I will sell that. This is the thing. This is the thing with the moonbag. You have to sell your moonbag at some point, and what the moon is a very, very subjective thing. I don't have to wait for that to go up 30,000% to sell it. In fact, if it does another 10x, for example, I'm probably going to pull the trigger on that, or at least consider pulling a trigger on most, if not all of that bag, because that's a pretty big step for that cryptocurrency from its current position, right? That is, in a way, mooning. So, and I know there's people out there that won't sell. I'm not going to sell before my $1 billion market cap cryptocurrency does 100x. Well, that's, have realistic expectations. I know when we get peak mania, those expectations might get overshot. But one thing I always like to say is that you don't have to perfectly time the top to make money in this market. Most people make most of their money way in between the perfect bottom and the perfect top. Almost no one catches that. So if you kind of get to peace with yourself that you're never going to perfectly catch the bottom and perfectly sell the top, but that you can make all kinds of money in between, you're going to do very well and you're going to consistently make money on your investments.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think I tweeted about that right before we got on here. Bitcoin suddenly started dipping a little bit. It hasn't even retraced to the 2.36 level, and people are already calling in the top. That's only going to get you clout. You're going to get clout if you try predict the exact top. Actual actionable trading, it's too difficult to do. I mean, people have been calling tops 25K, 30K, 28K, 32K, all the way up to where we are now, 40K, and it'll continue to happen until suddenly one of those tweets or calls happens to be correct, and then you retweet the clout indefinitely. And I like that you own that completely. And you there was some justification there, which I liked for the moonbags. You said you're very selective with them, so that will mitigate a lot of the risk. You genuinely believe these assets have large long-term potential, and combined with, say, your macro background, I can see that being more effective than for a lot of other people. Now, what else do you teach? Because I know you have a newsletter, Wealth Mastery. What else do you teach in that? I'm guessing a lot of this stuff will be covered in that. What is that fundamentally based on?
I mean, we do a lot of different things in the Wealth Mastery newsletter. I mean, we cover a lot of stuff. We got a lot of different sections. It's really packed full of information. So if you're kind of an investor who doesn't have a lot of time in your hands, this kind of gives you a lot of what's going on in the market. So we cover, the different sections. Every week I've got a sort of big news recap, right? So we kind of go over the top stories of the week, what's been happening with them. For example, I've been talking about, what it means for like XRP getting delisted on all these exchanges. It's amazingly pumping in spite of all the regulatory uncertainty around it. We looked at what's happening with Bittrex delisting privacy coins, more war on privacy coins, et cetera, et cetera. We look at upcoming token sales. So trying to get a curated list of what is likely to be some of the hotter upcoming token sales. We look at trending coins, right? Because I think this is one area where people can get kind of into trouble sometimes. They see a coin that's trending and, I kind of look through and see, okay, what's this coin? Why is it trending, right? Sometimes coins are trending for the wrong reason because something bad's happened. Everybody's looking at the price to see what's happening. Or sometimes coins are pumping for really no reason and they're going to be number one trending for a day and then they're going to disappear and no one's ever going to hear about them ever again, which happens a lot, right? So it's kind of trying to sort the wheat from the chaff in that respect and see what's trending. Is it trending because it's a fundamentally strong coin that you should be paying attention to, or is it trending just because it's pumping because it's a pump and dump and it's going to go away in a couple of days? Every week we've got an interview with an industry leader, Rect Capital. He's actually doing the technical analysis bits for the newsletter, so it's been providing a lot of great value. Every week we have a deep dive altcoin report by this guy I know in the US. His name's Jesse. He's definitely a Bitcoiner, right? So he takes a nice skeptical view of a lot of these cryptocurrencies we see coming out. He's been an altcoin investor for a long time. He's seen a lot of the crazy stuff happen. He's been involved with a lot of stuff, and so he's got a very critical eye when it comes to these altcoins that are promising the moon, and whether or not they're actually going to deliver on that, whether the technology's there and the teams are there and all that stuff. So we look at that. I'm working with DeFi Dad. He's a great guy on Twitter to follow as well, and he does a weekly tutorial for us, looking at how to get some of those crazy APYs in crypto. We try to curate again that list and find safer options for people. And there's more. We do a calendar as well, so you can keep track of upcoming events. Things like the XRP Flare airdrop. We were keeping track of that for 3 months before the coin actually started pumping, right? So it wasn't a big surprise for us when 3 weeks out from the airdrop, the coin started pumping, right? So things like this, we try to keep really just, a broad view of the market, provide a little bit of something for everybody, but also very specific knowledge. We also do stock stuff too. We also look at stocks. So it's a lot of information. It's big value-packed investor report. So, I think it provides a lot of value for people and helps them kind of keep up to date with the key stuff going on in the market.
Nice. Sounds like you've got a good system together, a wide team with a variety of skills over there. And I checked right before to make sure you were comfortable with me asking this. And without even flinching, you said, absolutely, let's dive into it. And I wanted to see, so the cost of this newsletter. This is an aid for investors and traders, both in the crypto market and for the stock market, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yep. Yeah, mostly crypto. We do a bit of stock stuff, mostly crypto. Yep.
And could I check before I dive into this, what is the yearly cost of the newsletter? Is there a discount for people buying yearly versus the $39 a month for the monthly?
Right now, it's just $39 a month. So we don't have a yearly discount at this time. I might consider doing that in the future, but it's just $39 right now.
So if we round that up, that's like about $480 a year, I would say. How large would someone's portfolio have to be to justify that sort of spend on an investor slash trading aid?
Yeah, I mean, probably around a $10,000 or $20,000 portfolio would be somewhere around the minimum. I would say would make it worth while. But there's a lot of opportunities we discuss within that. That even if you're a smaller, let's say you only have $5,000 in your portfolio, well, it is a bit of a cost in terms of your investment in your potential to get those returns, right? But I look at it as if you even get into one of the token sales we talk about, your potential to take your portfolio from $5,000 to $10,000 becomes, a very real possibility, right? And this knowledge of being able to access these things or understand how to use these different DeFi protocols and things like that can actually do that. But I'd say probably someone with around $10,000 in their portfolio would be probably a nice sweet spot as a minimum of, who would be looking at the newsletter.
So $10,000 at 5,000. Now, I think my maths is correct. That would be 10% of their portfolio, correct?
Correct.
Onto education. Well, how does the content on the newsletter differ to what's on your YouTube and other free content out there? For those who don't have the $10,000, $20,000 portfolios, would you recommend paying or going more for the free options and investing their time rather than their money?
Well, it depends on, if you do have the time to invest, obviously that's always an option for you, right? This is one of the things with one of the value propositions of the newsletter is that we are helping save your time, right? There's no great secrets out there, right? We do have a lot of proprietary information, obviously, like the altcoin reports, right? That's our own in-house guy researching that information, doing that research himself. You can find that information elsewhere and put it together yourself, right? It's going to take you a lot longer versus reading a 15-minute report, spending, 6-8 hours, whatever it might be, going through the white papers and the websites and the forums and all the stuff which we do in order to make those reports. So, I think if you are, really serious about investing, but, have a life outside of cryptocurrency, then it's something to be interested in. For those who don't have life outside of crypto, well, you've got time on your hands. You can research this stuff. But even then, it still probably provides a lot of value for people. But in terms of what I do on the YouTube channel, I try to cover a lot of similar stuff. But I mean, just what we cover in the newsletter, there's no way I can make that much video content in 1 week, right? I'm already at maximum capacity in terms of what I can do with video content, right? So it actually takes a different amount of time, right? It takes a lot of time to prepare the video, record the video, make the thumbnail, edit the video, all that stuff, right? Versus the written content. It's also different formats. It's stuff that I don't think would necessarily work well in a video content format, like going through like a calendar. Okay, here's 6 upcoming calendar events, and here's it doesn't really, in my mind anyway, work very well in a video content format, but it works really well in a written format for investors to be able to kind of look, browse through. They know what sections of the newsletter are relevant for them, what they're looking for, what they're scanning for, and so they can find that relevant information for them.
Well, thank you for diving into those tougher questions. And I think you've answered them splendidly. It sounds like a terrific product. I should check it out myself. And following on from that, I would love to know what your outlook is going into 2021. You've mentioned a few coins already that are on your radar. I know you're a big fan of Polkadot. We can start there or go elsewhere. What are the key macro themes you are watching in 2021? And feel free to attach specific coins to that as well.
Sure. I mean, the big things that I'm watching in 2021 in terms of like big trends, right? Obviously, Bitcoin's not going anywhere. It's going to continue being a big trend. But if you want to make like the really big returns, it's not going to be with Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit $40,000 today. So for Bitcoin to pull a 10x, just a 10x, a simple little 10x, which for an altcoin is really not that crazy, right? For Bitcoin to pull a 10x, it's going to go to $400,000. It's going to have a market cap of around $7 trillion approximately. So 70% of the market cap of gold. For that to happen in 2021, I mean, hey, anything's possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it's incredibly unlikely to see that scenario happen in the next 12 months. It could. I'm not saying it can't. But if you're looking for those bigger gains, you're looking at the altcoin market, right? So, I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is going to remain a key trend as we see these hedge funds and billionaires and stuff. They're going to keep buying Bitcoin. It's not going to just magically stop overnight. Those guys are going to keep coming into the market. So Bitcoin is going to remain a key trend. I think Ethereum will also remain a key trend, but also Ethereum competitors, because right now we're seeing, again, Ethereum really is becoming a blockchain for those who can afford it, right? So last week, Uniswap fees got up to like $80 again to make a simple swap on Uniswap. And for the investor who has $10,000 or $20,000 in their portfolio, an $80 swap for maybe a $1,000 trade, that's just not working, man. So you go to a centralized exchange, but maybe the centralized exchange doesn't have what you want because Uniswap only lists certain things early and you can't get it early and you have to watch the opportunity go by. And so there's a lot of opportunity right now for other blockchains to step in and start getting their message out and getting users to come over to their chain. Now, the network effect of Ethereum is truly dominant in a very, very serious way right now. Layer 2 solutions for Ethereum are also probably going to start taking off. We've seen over the last couple of days, Loopring, Matic, and XDAI all, moving a lot in market price. As the price of Ethereum went up, people started looking towards layer 2 solutions again. So that will continue to be something happening with Ethereum until 2022, when we see Ethereum, kind of rolling out the final phases of its major upgrade. So I am watching Polkadot. I am watching a few other blockchains like Elrond and Cardano to see what they do as they start building their ecosystems. But I think the hype we're seeing around Polkadot in particular is very interesting, very justified, because, Polkadot has been built by Gavin Wood, right? The guy who was one of the founders of Ethereum, the guy who wrote Solidity, right? And all this stuff. So he's definitely a big name in the space. And we see what is being built and the hype around Polkadot, right? That's you can't discount that, right? There's other blockchains that are doing all kinds of cool stuff and nobody cares. Nobody cares. But people do care about Polkadot, right? So if you're an investor, you should be paying attention to what other people are paying attention to, because even if there's, another blockchain that's going to have more transactions per second and lower gas fees and whatever, nobody cares. Nobody cares. No one's using it, right? No one's interested in using it. No one's building on it. Whereas you compare Polkadot right now to, Ethereum 2017, and it's very, very interesting to see just how much is being built or proposed to be built or in the process of being built right now on Polkadot. The ecosystem's incredible when you look at it versus, again, early 2017 Ethereum. Right now, I'd say Polkadot is ahead of, let's say, January, February 2017 Ethereum, right? And really, by the end of 2017, Ethereum was still a one-trick pony. It was basically an ICO engine, right? We didn't have almost any working products on Ethereum. Only really in 2018 did we start seeing, some stable coins coming and some of the DeFi protocols finally starting to launch, right? But most of this stuff didn't actually happen until, 2018, 2019 for a lot of it, to be honest. 2020 has obviously been a very formative year for Ethereum, but Polkadot's coming in with all this stuff that, has a real potential to shake things up. So that ecosystem matters. The fact that we do have so many developers getting behind Polkadot, that matters, right? And that's, I think, why we do see this hype building around Polkadot as an ecosystem and as an investment.
I like how Polkadot also doesn't come out as an Ethereum killer, which almost every single Ethereum killer seems to have failed, whereas Polkadot works really well in synergy with Ethereum. Are there any competitors then to Polkadot that you have your eye on that could potentially interfere its what seems to be like a road that's only going to go up as long as this bull market continues?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of competitors. You actually brought up a really good point too. And that's, I think we'd put Cosmos in that same category. And some Cosmos DeFi projects have done pretty well. And Cosmos definitely does not have the same hype that Polkadot does, but Cosmos is targeting a pretty similar idea to Polkadot as not being an Ethereum killer, but actually as a complement to build the entire blockchain ecosystem. So that's one that people shouldn't totally discount. But look, there's a lot of competitors. There's a lot of people out there who want market share. right now. And obviously, there's some very interesting ones being built. I think Cardano is going to be a very interesting one. I know it's been that slow burn, but they do have their smart contracts coming Q1 of this year. There's something like 100 projects kind of in the pipeline for Cardano. So, I think it could come out in 2021 and shake a lot of things up. And that is definitely an Ethereum competitor, right? So there's a lot of people, a lot of blockchains right now. And I feel exhausted sometimes looking at all these different blockchains because, there's potentially a space for all the blockchains, right? But at the same time, we don't need 100 different smart contract platforms. That's what we have right now. Most of them, as you can see, have been chosen by the market to be losers. There's a reason why no one's using Ethereum Classic, right? There's a reason why no one's using Komodo, right? There's a reason why almost no one's using a lot of the other smart contract platforms too. People keep spending huge sums of money to continue using Ethereum. It's very interesting that the people keep choosing this as a market option, right? And there's definitely an opportunity for those guys to step up their game at some point. But I think a lot of these smart contract platforms are going nowhere. They haven't managed to. They've raised millions and millions of dollars in ICOs in 2017 and 2018, and they still have almost no users, almost no dApps. I mean, they're zombie chains, right?
It's incredible how people do keep choosing Ethereum, not just in this narrative, but there were a lot of arguments early in 2020 that the stablecoins were going to make Ethereum worthless because Ethereum's main reason for having value is because people get to invest in these projects for Ethereum. But now we have stablecoins that are ERC20 tokens and they serve the same purpose, but people don't care. They still choose to use Ethereum. And why do you think that is?
It's just where everything's built. We had a lot of builders there come early. We have the strong network effect. We have a massive developer lead for Ethereum. It's got 4 times as many developers working on Ethereum than the nearest competitor, which is Bitcoin. So at last check, there's like 1,600 developers a month approximately working on Ethereum. So, and that doesn't account for the entire ecosystem. That's, just core stuff. So that's a pretty big deal when it comes down to it. So we do see these developers continue to choose to want to build on Ethereum, right? So yeah, whether or not we see other chains really start to take a dominant position or not, well, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think there's not an infinite number of smart contract platforms necessary. We can create an infinite amount, but where the users go, that's what's going to really decide things in the long term.
Absolutely, especially with the recent hit XRP's taken, a lot of the market share is going to naturally flow into Ethereum. It's great to see because personally I am a fan of Ethereum and have a bit of exposure there, even though mainly am Bitcoin focused. I know you said you can't get a 10x there, but when it comes to liquidity, when it comes to ease of mind, it's definitely the most comfortable place to be.
Number 1 in my portfolio.
Beautiful. Love to hear it. Lark, my final question is going to be, what are the projects that you're most looking forward to coming in 2021? And do you think our listeners should be paying attention to as well that aren't released yet?
That aren't released yet. Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, obviously, as mentioned, Cardano is, I guess, in the state of being released, right? I think smart contracts will be a pretty big deal for that when it does come on board. I think we see a lot of the smaller altcoins moving really hard and really fast. So it's kind of hard to say that they haven't been released yet because a lot of these guys are in the process of releasing their technology and stages and stuff like that. But I think one that's probably really going to shake up the show a lot is Injective Protocol. So they are basically a layer 2 decentralized exchange. So they're going to be doing derivatives and all kinds of just what they're already releasing. Incredible. We're looking at stocks, we're looking at commodities, we're looking at crypto, trading for pennies, right? Instead of for $80, right? So it's going to be a big deal when it comes out. Their test net has been super, super interesting so far. And I think when they do their main net, it's going to really rock the boat a bit for some of these existing decentralized exchanges. So that's one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for that. Listeners have been given a whole bunch of projects they can now look into, strategies as well for taking profit. This episode has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Lark, is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with, be it thank you, I had fun, which hopefully you did, or a direction to one of your platforms, be it your Wealth Mastery or your YouTube channel?
Well, of course, thanks for having me on. I had a great time. No, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a great chat. Thanks, everyone, if you've made it to this point in the episode, for listening. I really appreciate spending the time with us. And of course, yeah, come find me on YouTube. We're always talking about fun stuff over there. And remember to pay yourself during this bull run. Remember to take profits, guys. There's no reason to get to the end of this bull run and be broke. So, you've got the chance right now to make life-changing money in this market. It's true. It's real. It's happening. Crypto has incredible volatility, but that volatility, there's so much money to be made within there. So if you play your cards right, you can really alter your financial destiny. And you don't have to be a millionaire to get started in this game. You can come in with a few $1,000s and make, pretty life-changing money in it. So play your cards right, take your profits, guys, and you're going to do just fine.
You heard it here, guys. Take profit this time. Do not be left like the end of 2017 where people turned 7-figure portfolios into 4-figure portfolios. I've seen it happen. I'm sure Lark has seen it happen multiple times as well. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Market Meditations. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like us to continue bringing you fascinating people from across the world, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you like to listen to these podcasts, and share the episode with a friend. If you have feedback or an idea for a potential guest, reach out to me on Twitter at 𝐏𝐸𝐴𝐾, and do not forget we write a newsletter covering all important topics in crypto and traditional markets. We send it out 3 times a week. The Market Meditations newsletter. You also get early access to these episodes, and you get transcripts and extra notes as well, so make sure to subscribe there as well.